Nutanix, but it's also an interesting segue, I think, into, I mean, if there's anything else you want to talk about on this particular topic, but it's also a segue, I think, into the last thing I think we wanted to talk about, which is the CIO of Nutanix and this profile that was written on him, but I thought was just, as a CIO of a tech company, very illustrative.
Yeah, I love that story. It was a very practical story, and I felt like it was one that we all can feel. So this if you haven't seen it, Diginomica did this great profile of Nutanix CIO, who is dealing with the very realistic operational and cost management challenges of making his IT environment rationalized at a time when his company has some massive business opportunities. If you haven't heard, there's this company called VMware that got acquired and now is being broken up into parts, as I can tell. So Nutanix is one of their biggest competitors, and this is a big opportunity. So this profile went through some of the steps that he was able to take to be able to move forward. Sorry about that.
Okay. Did I lose you?
I can hear you now, but we might be losing. We can just skip this part out of it. But
All right. Well, you were mid-sentence when I lost you. You were talking about you were just sort of going through the setup of the article.
okay, then I will redo that. Just a moment. Okay. Yes. So Diginomica did this interesting profile of Nutanix CIO Rami Mazid, who really provided this practical vision of how CIOs can clean up cloud costs and clean up infrastructure and get the business ready for growth. And obviously, this is a big deal for Nutanix because they competed against VMware, which was bought by Broadcom and now is being broken up for parts and providing a lot of business opportunities for their competitors. So I thought this was a really interesting guide that honestly could be useful to a lot of CIOs who are trying to figure out how to balance rationalization.
Yeah, so I think what is really interesting about this was, I mentioned earlier that I think one of the toughest jobs is to be the CIO at a tech company. And what I remember sitting next to a CIO when I was listening to, we were both listening to like Netflix or somebody from one of the big players talk, and he leans over to me and says, "Oh yeah, if only we all had that budget, right?" And so I think if you're a traditional CIO of a traditional enterprise, it's easy to kind of feel like it's two separate worlds. And what I loved about this article is it became very clear that he is dealing with many of the exact same issues. Nutanix is obviously a major infrastructure player, so he believes that infrastructure is very, very important. But he was also very focused on the bread and butter sort of issues about how do you deal with the operationalization of things? How do you solve for operational efficiency? And how do you look at cost, including cloud costs? And again, obviously there's always this interesting dynamic when you're a tech company CIO of eating your own dog food, drinking your own champagne, whatever term you want to use. And so they're focusing on those things. But I love the focus, and I love that we're seeing this sort of rise up. We've talked in the past about FinOps and how I believe it is something that should not be applied only to cloud, that it should be applied holistically across the entire enterprise tech landscape. And really just about bringing this discipline into it. And I'm excited to see that other companies are going down this road. So Logic Monitor just made some announcements around they have some new cloud cost optimization efforts, and we're seeing this continue to play out where increasingly organizations that have traditionally focused strictly on the technical landscape are now recognizing that you have to start bringing cost into it. And so this article just really was this sort of laying it all bare of this is how you have to deal with all of this. And so it was a great article. If you're a CIO, I would read it. Not only can you get some ideas, but it will be gratifying that you're not alone. This is an issue that everybody
Yes.
has to grapple with.
And very tactically, I liked that he had a plan for the money that he was going to save. I think one of the biggest issues I run into around IT cost management is simply if I reduce my budget by 20%, what do I need to do to actually keep that budget? Rami figured it out. Whereas I feel like a lot of people are shy about trying to save that $10 million without having a great plan for what to do with the $10 million next. But the honest truth is, in a world where AI and business growth are priorities, you need to know where to spend that money correctly from a technology perspective.
No, it's a great point. I mean, I think that the whole budgeting and strategic financial management side is something that we don't spend nearly enough time talking about. But I'm of the school of thought that if you as a CIO are simply giving budget back, you're just not doing your job, because the organization needs to be making that investment. And so your job isn't to reduce IT spend, in my opinion. Your job is to use and leverage that IT spend at to the greatest advantage, right? Because it would be a really hard sell for me for someone to convince me that an organization is spending too much on IT. The issue is always going to be they're spending too much on IT on the wrong things and in the wrong ways, because every organization is going to be driving advantage through their investments in technology. It's just a matter of, are you getting that? Are you going there, or are you spending it doing a bunch of, things that are unnecessary? And so I think that was definitely came through in this. And I loved his whole approach and just very pragmatic way of viewing it. So it was a great article.